What's up everyone? Welcome to my channel. My name is David. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you how to set up a 3-tier web architecture with AWS. I'll be using Nginx, Wordpress, and MariaDB for the database. And if you stay through the video, I'll be sharing with you something interesting that I found out about SSM and how to use it without creating an endpoint. Let's begin. Okay, first, when we create a 3-tier web architecture, we need a VPC. Let's create one. If we're gonna create a 3-tier web architecture, we're gonna need a VPC. So I've created one, and since this is just a demo, we don't need a very huge IP address. So we're gonna use a class C, and we keep everything as default. Let's create the VPC. Next, since we're gonna create a 3-tier architecture, we're gonna create 3 subnets: 1 for public subnet and 2 private subnet. I'm gonna select my VPC, and we're gonna use my first public subnet. And since we're just doing for demo, we don't really need a lot of IP addresses. 168.0.0/24. No, still too big. 64, 25, still too much. 26. Okay, 64 IP addresses. The first 4 and the last one will be in use. So in actual fact, you only have 59 IP addresses to use, and we're gonna call this environment public subnet. Okay. Next, we're gonna create another subnet. We're gonna call this private subnet, and I'm not gonna run this as a official website, so I'm not gonna click anything on the AZ. And the same thing, we're just gonna 192.168.0.64/26. okay, and we're gonna add env variable. Gonna call private subnet 01. We're gonna add another one, private subnet 02 192.168. Okay, the click doesn't work. 192.168.0.128/64. 26. Okay, great. So I'm gonna click env private subnet 02. Okay, awesome. So right now we're gonna create our subnet and see where it goes from here. Then let's take a look at our VPC. We're gonna look at the resource map. So they are all interlinked to one route table. That is a big no-no, because we do not want the public subnet route table to attach to the private subnet. So we're gonna create a new route table for the private subnet. I'm gonna just name my first public subnet route table 01. I'm gonna create another one, my private env private subnet. You have a choice to create 2 route table, but because of this demonstration, I'm just going to use one route table for 2 private subnet. I'm going to associate them with my private subnet. Okay, let's take a look at our VPC again. Let's refresh this. Let's look at the resource map. Okay, great. So right now I have a unique route table for my private subnet. But if you notice on the screen, there is no internet connection. So you cannot get your application out into the internet. So we're going to create an internet gateway and a net gateway. Let's start with internet gateway. I found something interesting. I'll show you right now. Let's create our net gateway. My net gateway -01 is going to be a public connectivity type because I'm going to put it in our public subnet. You cannot have internet access if your net gateway is at a private subnet. So there is no IP address. I'm going to allocate IP address, and I'm going to put env. Usually I don't do this, but public subnet. Okay, I'm going to create this. Then I'm going to create the internet gateway. My first internet gateway, env public subnet. Okay, great. So right now I have the internet gateway and net gateway running. I should be able to see them in the VPC, right? Nope, because you have to assign them to the route table. So let's go to the route table. Let's assign our net gateway. Let's go to the public route table and assign. Okay, hold on. Let's go to the public route table and then assign the internet gateway. We don't see it here because you have to attach this internet gateway to your VPC. So we're gonna look at the internet gateway, and right now it is detached, so we have to attach to the VPC, and we should be able to see this once I refresh. I'm gonna add internet gateway here, and it should appear. Yes, okay, good. So let's refresh our VPC resource map. We should be able to see our internet gateway and our net gateway. Awesome. So right now the net gateway is being assigned to the route table, and this route table is assigned to these two private subnet, and we have our internet gateway assigned to the public route table, and the public route table is assigned to the public subnet. Great. So right now we have our VPC running. The best practice is to have different AZ running it, but because of this demonstration, I'm not gonna make it available at this moment. So right now we're gonna create the instance. So I'm gonna create our database instance first. Let me close this. Let's click on EC2. Let me get my bash script. We're gonna start with the database instance first. My first database server 01. We're gonna use Ubuntu because my script at this moment only cater for Ubuntu. I'm gonna keep everything as default. I'm not gonna use SSH. We're not gonna SSH in, so I don't need a private key. Just make sure it's in the private subnet. And I'm not going to use public IP address, and this is where you have to create the security group. So I'm going to create 3 security group right now. Okay, I'm going to call this my database security group 01, and basically I'll allow 3306 plus 3306 plus 443 and 80. I'll tell you why we need 443 and 80. I'm gonna select the VPC, and I'm gonna allow custom. I'm gonna create 3306. We're gonna put 0 to all first. I'll share with you why. Because the security group for our application server is not created yet. Okay, here's the interesting part. You need to allow HTTP, which is port 80. Why? To everywhere. Because you need to run you need to, if you can do this, you have to allow this because you need to update the OS, and Ubuntu normally do updates via HTTP instead of HTTPS. And since I'm not using SSH, I'm not going to open up port 22 and exposing it to brute force. I'm going to use SSM agent, and SSM agent communicate with AWS services via 443. So I'm going to allow 443 on the outbound rule. I'm going to keep it 0. You do this only when you don't mind the TCP packets running out of your network. Am I done? Okay, good. So I'm gonna env private subnet 02. I'm gonna create my security group. Okay, next I'm gonna create another security group from my application instance. Let's try this. My web server security group. Then I'm gonna allow 3000 and 80 also, as well as 443. Allow. Okay. When you create a security group, there is no inbound rule, so you have to create one. I'm gonna run the WordPress for port 3000. I'm gonna keep 0 for a while because I've not created the web tier security group. And same here, I'm gonna allow traffic port 80 so that I can do uploads on my OS. I'm gonna allow port 443 so that I can talk to the instance without using SSH, and I'm gonna allow port 3306, 3306 to the security group where I place my database server in. Okay, so that it is able to talk to the instance in the database server. Let me check everything is okay. Great. So now I need to make some modification. I'm gonna create another security group called my web server security group 1. This is where I place my Nginx in the web tier in the public subnet. So I'm gonna allow port 80, allow 443. Select inbound. As I mentioned, we need port 80 to anywhere. We need 443 just in case I'm decided to use certificate from ACM. And for here, I'm gonna expose it so that it can talk to my application server. And I'm gonna choose the security group where my application server is. Okay. It's not here. Let me refresh. My app. Let me create a new one because I got it wrong. My app server security group 01. And this is where I allow the web tier to access the port 3080 for updates, OS updates, and 443 so that I can talk to it with using SSM. Let me choose database server. Okay. env private subnet 01. Let me make changes to the web server security group because I think I misunderstood. I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna add it and expose it to port 80 to everywhere. I'm gonna expose it to 443 just in case I change my mind and want to set up hit SSL. Okay, Then since this security group at the web tier is gonna talk to my application server, I'm gonna make sure that it can talk to it by changing the port to 3000 and ensuring that the security group is pointing to my app server. Everything else remains the same. Okay. Click. I'm gonna check a bit, then make sure my database, the security group is pointing to the correct one. Okay, so the source is to all. I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna select the application security group. .33006. Then ensuring my database security group only exposes port 80 and 443. Then I need to make sure my application security group inbound rule accept port 3000 to the security group where my Nginx will be running. So which is this one? I cannot. So I'm gonna create a new one. Yep. Then I'm gonna make sure my application security group, the inbound rules is correct. The outbound rule is correct. Okay, great. Then the last one, I'm gonna make sure the security group for my Nginx is able to receive traffic from outside. Okay, good. And it can only talk to my application. Okay, great. So I've already created the security group. Next, we're gonna launch our database server, and we're gonna create the security group for it. Refresh this and try again, and it works. I'm gonna choose the instance profile to SSM role, and I'm gonna paste my script. So basically what it does, it will create a unique database name, the same database user, and a unique password, which is almost the same for the root password. Then it's gonna download the MariaDB, and this is where it gets interesting, because for DB user you actually have to allow privilege to talk to the database server. Okay, let's run this and we wait. Let's refresh this. Let's check on it. Okay, good. Normally I'll use session manager to check it out and check what's going on, but as I was taking the DevOps Associate exam, and I found out about this. It's called run command. Basically what it does is it runs a bash script into your instance for you without you running the SSM or the session manager. I already created one, so I'm just gonna copy, and this is the command that I've used. I just want to see what's going on, and I'm gonna choose my instance. I'm not gonna keep anything, so I'm not gonna run any S3 bucket or CloudWatch. I'm not gonna output it there. Let's run. Let's try again. It should be a fast one. Let's refresh this and let's look at the output. Okay, great. It's working fine right now. So I have the database name, I have the database user, and the password. I'm gonna copy this, put into a notepad. Great. So right now we're gonna run the application server. We're gonna create a new instance. I'm gonna call this my first app server 01. I'm gonna choose Ubuntu again. I'm gonna keep everything as default. Edit, at this moment I'm gonna look at my script. I'm gonna paste that for my WordPress. I'm not gonna use SSH key. I'm gonna choose private subnet 01. I'm gonna select the security group that I created earlier, which is the admin. I'm gonna make sure that the instance profile has the role. It allows me to SSM in, and I'm gonna paste my bash script, and I'm gonna make some changes here. I'm gonna copy the password, and I need to make sure the database whole IP address is configured. So okay, let's look at the IP address. Let's use as you can see, I'm using port 3000. I'm not gonna run port 80 as the default one. And if nothing goes wrong, I should have this out. Let's launch this and pray. Let's take a look at the startup. Is it running? It'll be a while. I'll be back. Okay, great. So right now it's up. Do I want to run the command? Let's try session manager. We're in. So I'm gonna see what's going on. Sudo tail f, and we're gonna see what does the SSM agent has installed for us. And we wait, and I'm back. So right now everything seems to be working just as expected. We have the database host IP address. We are able to see the name and the password, and I'm just going to make sure that I can talk to the database. No, I'm just going to make sure that we have a WordPress running. Okay, port 3000 is up. Good. It's supposed to be a mess. I'll show you later why. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna create the presentation tier or the web tier where I'll be installing an Nginx. I'm going to keep everything as default. I'm going to select the public subnet. I'm going to assign a public IP address because we need to expose to the internet. And we're going to use a web server security group. Gonna look for my bash script. Gonna paste this, and gonna make sure that web server, the IP address is copied and paste here. I'm gonna launch this. Okay, so if you stay until now, I'm gonna share something that I've found out. Do you know that you actually don't need a public IP address assigned to your instance if you want to use SSM, and also if you don't want to use SSM endpoint? So all you have to do is just to make sure the security group in the outbound like this. Let me show you. So security group that's inbound is a stateful firewall. So if you have 443 in the inbound rule, it doesn't mean the SSM agent will run. In actual fact, if you have 443 in the outbound rule, the SSM agent will kickstart and install into the instance. And I'm able to SSM in, see, without having a public, okay, this web server has a public IP address. Let me show you the application or the database server. See, I don't have a public IP address, and the security group doesn't have any inbound 443, but it has outbound 443, and I'm able to connect using session manager. Isn't it crazy? All the while thinking that you need a public IP address to use SSM, but today I found out that you don't actually need it. Okay, let's get back. So where did I stop? Let's refresh this. Okay, good. Let us check the health of our web tier. Okay, it's running. So let's SSM in. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Let's try to see this. See this. Let me run developer mode. Cannot get in. Let's SSM. Is the security group inbound? Okay, good. Outbound. Let's troubleshoot together. I'm in. Let's run bash. Let me see what we have here. tail-f var log cloud. Everything looks fine. Port 3000. Am I able to talk to you? Let's copy this. Let's code this. Okay, I can talk to you. Let me check the health of our Nginx. It failed. Dawn. Let's see what's going on. Okay, good. So some backlash. Most probably backlash. Let's look at the bash script and copy this. Okay, so everything looks fine. Okay, let me make changes here. Sudo vi. Let me make some changes to my script. As you can see, I'm missing a backslash here. I'm gonna create some commit, but for this demonstration I'm gonna skip that. Gonna run out of battery. Save this. Let's restart our Apache. Oh no, I'm gonna restart Nginx. Let's do a curl. Okay, it's working. It's working. Let's hope I'm able to run this before. Hey, 3000. Let's connect again. Still not getting anything. Yes, that port 80 is running. -b localhost. Okay, it should be up. Let me test something. -b. Okay, so it shouldn't have port 3000. Let's look at the app tier. I'm gonna pause here for a while and get back to you. And I'm back. Apparently, my bash script, as mentioned by chat DeepSeek, is I have this. Let me share with you. I have this set up, so it somehow or another got redirected to port 3000. So it mentioned that I have to set this WP option to the IP address that I'm setting, and I'm able to get the website here. So right now what I have here is a 3-tier web architecture that I'm using, and I'm running Nginx as the web tier. The app tier I'm running WordPress, and the database I'm running MariaDB. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, leave it in the comments below and I'll try my best to get back to you. Bye.